Disney is the world's most comically evil villain, and it is clear their writers do not know what a hero or a villain even is. Just like every Iron Man villain, Ironheart is envious of him, copies him, tries to supplant him out of a need to be known, rich, famous, or in her case, iconic. Ironheart is a copycat. New mantle, replacement who is better than Iron Man in every single way. Selfish, immediately befriends a murderer, thief, destruction of property. This MCU habit is a problem. It is filling up with heroes who are just a member-berry reskin that they want you to think is better than the original in every single way, but the audience sees them as worse in every single way. When people see Black Panther, they think Black Panther. When they see Killmonger, they think Killmonger. When they see Blade, they think Blade. When people see Ironheart, they see pandering Iron Man. Strange that audiences love Blade, the Black Panther. Mysteriously, when you get a great character, the ism forgets to show up. Those Blade movies were loved decades ago by a comic nerd audience that the misinformation stream media wants you to think was always problematic. Ironheart is a cheap knockoff. That should disappoint everyone. Just like live-action Snow White, people see it as a perversion of the original. The entire MCU, where every single male hero is now just a female swap. You have not created, ironically enough, something iconic. The strategy of building up the new mantle holder by ripping down the beloved, well-known original is endemic in all ways, in all sorts of fantasy, sci-fi, comic books today, since they lack the creativity to make something new. Even established characters are falling prey to this. The She-Hulk series made a point to put the Hulk through a humiliation ritual that they seem to think will make people realize how much harder she has life than the Hulk. And thus you will like She-Hulk more than you like the Hulk. And She-Hulk is a well-liked comic book character. They still use the same tired and widely hated strategy of tearing down respected heroes, so instead people start to hate She-Hulk. Because everyone sees what you were trying to do, and it is insulting. It is like when someone tries to tell you what to do in an unpleasant way, so you go out of your way to not do that thing. You like Iron Man? Well, Ironheart is just Iron Man, but even better. And without all the problematic elements. And if you liked Iron Man but you don't like Ironheart, you must be a bigot. That's the entire writing strategy here. They think that if they give you the choice between uncritically loving corporate products or being called a bigot, you have zero choice but to love the corporate product. This is not complicated. You have a wide selection of heroic traits and villain traits. You create a character from those. Selflessness, humbleness, concern for others, ability to handle pressure, courage, integrity, a positive attitude, being genuine. Instead, we now have evil characters being treated like heroes. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the villain who kidnapped, tied up people, burned them alive, was treated like a hero by Falcon. At the same time, fake Captain America was treated like a villain for killing a dangerous super soldier who was supposedly unarmed. Look, if Cap or the Hulk isn't holding a weapon, they can still easily kill 1,000 people. This show painted the villains, a group whose background is they believe Thanos murdering over 3 billion people made the world a better place, as morally gray. Think about Scarlet Witch. She kidnapped an entire village of people, tortured and murdered them for months, trapped them in their own minds in a state of constant, waking horror, and they acted like she was justified, with Photon at the end telling her they will never understand what you have done for them. No, they do understand. She kidnapped and tortured them because she was fantasizing about imaginary kids. There is a place for morally gray heroes like the Punisher, Deadpool, and even a place for morally gray villains like Magneto. People who do good things in bad ways, or bad things for relatable and understandable reasons. However, there's two big problems with this. First of all, you still need to understand what is good and bad, and what sorts of actions and reasoning people will accept or reject. And these writers clearly do not understand this. They have no concept on reality. Second of all, even if they did understand, even if they were able to write some fire morally great characters with great stories, even in that fictional world, they are still overdoing it. They're both doing that way too often, and they are doing it to some of the wrong characters. Consider Batman and Superman. Making a dark, gritty Batman movie works perfectly with the character. Doing the same with Superman completely split the fan base. Even if some people will say the Snyder Superman movie is great, more will say that Superman cannot be written the same as The Watchmen. You can do one brutal, dramatic, slow movie like Logan, but if all the X-Men movies were like that movie, it would have been an agony to get through them all. Ironheart shows her being arrogant, shows her wanting to be iconic and well-known, shows her stealing the work of another, doubtless using Iron Man to try and catapult herself above him, shows her breaking and entering, committing crimes with lines like, "waiting to be acknowledged for your greatness." Anyone who's ever accomplished anything iconic in life has had to do some questionable things. Compare that to Starfire in the Teen Titans show, who in the episode Trock is subjected to cruelty and racism from another hero. Yet, when that hero is in danger, Starfire still saves him, because she is an exemplary hero who does the right thing. The so-called superhero fatigue may be masked by the likes of these cheap swaps and passing of the mantle that allows the media to call fans bigots for not wanting to buy the corporate product. But there is no superhero fatigue. Marvel Rivals proved that, a game that came out in a time when the media and AAA corporate studios were constantly using the excuses of live service game fatigue that tried to say Concord failed because the audience is just tired of that sort of game, and of course, with the MCU failures being excused not by the poor quality of their slop, but just that fans are growing weary of too many movies and shows. Complete fatigue magically vanishes when something good is given. Where was fatigue for Deadpool 3? The only thing fans have fatigue for is bullshit. Poorly adapted characters, attacks on the audience, being told the things they love are bad and problematic. Superhero stories where the heroes are not heroic and the villains are bland and forgettable. Think about this. In Captain America New World Order, Falcon America beats the Red Hulk by telling him to calm down. No, seriously, the villain of WandaVision, Scarlet Witch, is defeated by choosing to fly away. The villain of Falcon and Winter Soldier was a ginger. You know what, fair. The villain of Quantumania was the horrible CGI. And Kang. Remember Kang? The big villain who got defeated soundly every single time he showed up, yet was supposed to be the major threat for the Avengers post-Endgame, and then just suddenly vanished without a trace. And don't say it's well because of the actor's criminal trial. They replace actors all the time in the MCU, and this is a multiverse villain with an in-universe logic behind a new version of him looking completely different. They got rid of New Thanos because New Thanos is so forgettable that you might have already forgotten that Kang is the big villain they've been building for half a decade. When Thanos was introduced, he was looming over everyone like a king on a throne. When we met Kang, he was dancing on a desk at the edge of existence like he just downed a gallon of Schedule 1's most potent mixed poison. Who is the hero leading this generation? Who has had a recent, memorable, heroic arc that has built them up? Iron Man went through an arc where he saw his warmongering, arrogance, and destructive behavior hurt those he loves, hurt the world, and he had to right his wrongs. He started as a man who makes a quip to answer Captain America, calling him the guy who wouldn't jump on a grenade, to being the man who snaps his fingers to save the world. He had two very important things: flaws and redeeming moments. If Falcon America is meant to be the new leader of the Avengers, why was the only person who went through a sort of heroic growth in his movie the Red Hulk, a villain? Too many of these new heroes have no flaws, no growth, they were already amazing and they just needed to realize it. And you need to realize and agree with that fact too, or you are a bigot. Because they have no flaw. They've never had a flaw. They have no need for a redeeming moment because they have nothing to be redeemed for. Consider again Scarlet Witch. Kidnapping and torturing a full village of people is not only the worst thing a hero has done, It's among the worst things any MCU villain has done. Yet every other hero around her that acknowledged and addressed what she did was fully on her side. Compare that instead to one of the biggest points of contention in the first group of Avengers, Civil War. Iron Man was mostly painted as being on the wrong side of this. However, both sides had valid points that anyone could understand, regardless of what side you picked. You understood where Iron Man was coming from, how his mistakes guided him, and the reasoning he had to come to for his stance on superheroes acting outside of the authority of any governing body being a problem. As someone who participated in arms development, who saw his suit be copied and pose a threat to others, and who created Ultron, there were multiple formulating moments that his reasoning that superheroes needed to be reined in and have oversight made some sense, even if the audience was largely expected to side with Cap's belief of freedom and independence. Scarlet Witch, there was no reason for an audience to relate to or see her actions as anything other than purely evil. Yet, there was a huge disconnect, where other respected heroic characters all downplayed or even supported what she did. This in turn taints our perception of not just Scarlet Witch, but those other heroes, who now believe that kidnapping and torturing hundreds of innocent people for no reason is acceptable or even admirable. As Photon shows with the line, "They will never know what you sacrificed for them." How can writers be trusted with superhero stories when villains and evil acts are praised or minimized, while heroism is demeaned and mocked? So, Ironheart is going to come out, be quickly forgotten, and we already know the media will cover this in that way, and how zero lessons will be learned. Its failure will be blamed on the usual ist and phobe, and as always, the people who made the show will escape any scrutiny, and instead it will all be on the audience. Nobody is going to believe this is someone who is hard done by. She has the backing of Wakanda, of all places, the wealthiest country on the planet with access to ultra-advanced technology. Why is going to MIT even a big deal when you have something like that? But what do you think? Is Ironheart going to be iconic? Will characters in the show calling her amazing, a genius, super smart, the best a million times in the show convince you that she is better than problematic, old news Tony Stark? Let us know in the comments below if you're even gonna watch this show and how high your expectations are. Cannot unsee this. This person is a torso with these tiny little stick legs coming out the bottom, right? You see it too, right?